Let's open up with prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered fully. And we face the east towards Jerusalem, where our temple was and where our temple in Hamashiach shall return. Our Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, we come before Yah for opening our eyes, Yah, giving us a heritage and showing us right from wrong and giving us a means and a desire, Yah, for many of our forefathers died trying to fight against these pagan rituals and these pagan doctrines that are being pushed on our people, Yah. And we're in a free time, Yah, where we can freely choose, Yah, to serve you and give up maybe only luxuries, Yah, but we're safe. So we thank you for this time, Yah, and we ask that you encourage us as we be amongst our families during this time of this worldly festivities, that you allow us to sanctify ourselves, Yah, but still remain amongst our families, Yah, so that we can show right from wrong and show the things that are acceptable unto the Most High, Yah. And when we fall short, Yah, we humbly come before you, acknowledge all our sins and trespasses and missing the mark, and we beg you plainly, Yah, we beg you to please forgive us of our sins and trespasses, Yah. Continuing to chasten us, Yah, not in your sore displeasure, but in your tender love and mercy, Yah, allowing us to see right from wrong and to err in our ways so we can willfully make these changes towards obedience to you and to rededicate our temple unto you, Yah, in this season of dedication of Hanukkah. So we thank you, Yah, and we give you all the glory, all the majesty, all the might resides to you, Yah, through your Savior, word of Yah, your Son, Mashiach, Yahweh Shai. Through him we thank and pray to you, Yahweh alone. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Right, Shalom. My name is YAH Yasharah. I'm with the Savior Word of Yah, Tabernacles of the Congregation of Yisrael, and we're supposed to celebrate in this time. So we're going to go into the Apocrypha first. We're going to open up in 1 Maccabees. We're going to open up in 1 Maccabees. So if you do not have access to the Apocrypha, you can always go to SaviorWordOfYah.org. Go into the books and Bible section and the study section under books and Bibles, and you can access that for free. So we're opening up in 1 Maccabees, and what we're going to see here, these are the history books that they took out, which tells who was doing what to us, where we were at, what nations was bothering us, and what they tried to do. And they took a lot of this out because a lot of this same stuff they're doing now. Some of it is by threat of death. Other is just, it was our ancestors were threatened, and now it's ingrained in us, kind of like soul food. So we'll open up in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, and we're going to start this at verse 1. And the title of the Bible study again is Cleansing and Rededication of the Temple. Cleansing and Rededication of the Temple. So 1 Maccabees chapter 1, and we're going to start that at verse 1. And it happened after Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in the stead, the first over Greece. So it's telling you a time frame, and it's telling you the characters that are in here. So obviously we are already familiar with Alexander, the so-called great is what they called him. He was the son of Philip the Macedonian, and he took over the world pretty much, and he reigned in the stead of King Darius over the Persians and the Medes. Verse 2, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after all these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then he died. So this is why you see Greek and European control in all these different nations. Where you go to all these countries across the world, you'll see the leadership a certain complexion, and then everybody else a certain complexion. But then the leadership will be European Greek looking, but then they'll have features of if they're Asian, they'll have Asian features. If they're in Latino countries, they'll have more Hispanic features. And then if they're in Indian places, they'll look Indian, but they'll be lighter in complexion. All this goes back to here, to Alexander the Great, the so-called great, and his servants that took over these realms. Verse 8. And his servants bare rule, everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So these are the kings, and these are all the powers that be that are still in the earth right now. Come from these families here that put these crowns and gave them to their sons. Verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Yasharal wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. So now, same thing now. You have our people wanting to go Greek or join this fraternity or do whatever, trying to make these covenants with these heathen nations around us, because since we left them, since we left being slaves to them, it hasn't been well. This is the same thing we did in Egypt. Oh, it was better. At least we had food to eat while our children are getting killed and built into the walls. This is the same practice. So this device pleased them well. Verse 13, then certain of the people were so froward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So they're doing the same thing now. Well, YAH is our king, and he says, no, you can't eat these foods. No, you don't keep pagan holidays. You only worship one God. You're going to love your neighbor like yourself. No, we go and get license from the U.S. government or wherever the land of our captivity that allows us to eat the things we want to eat, do what we want to do, same-sex marriage, have multiple husbands, or whatever the case may be. We go and we get those permission from the land to do that. It's the same thing our ancestors did in this power. They're seeing the writing in the sand. Verse 14, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. So the customs of the heathen were exercises, a bunch of naked men or a bunch of naked women together. That was the custom of the heathen. Verse 15, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have dominion over the two realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Yasharal and Jerusalem with a great multitude. So now, once he took down those mighty nations that we'd run to for help, now he's coming towards Israel. Verse 21. And entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, the menorah, and the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and gold and precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore, there was great mourning in Yasharal, in every place where they were. So that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. And this is a lot that has happened in our society through the hard and rough times that our sisters, our daughters have gone through slavery, through Jim Crow, through Willie Lynch, through the division of the black family, all these different things. It has hardened our women to the point where a lot of our women are now having masculine type features or masculine type personalities because they've gone through so much. It's been so oppressive. It says oppression drives a wise man mad. So what you think it does to a wise woman? It's no different. Verse 27, and every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Yehuda, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them. But all was deceit, for when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Yasharal. See, this is the tactics of the heathen. They come and they speak very nice and soft and telling you, yeah, go ahead and take this. It's going to be good for you. It's going to help you. We're trying to take care of you. Yeah, go ahead and take this Christianity, this religion. We're going to sell you your own heritage, and we're going to package it in a white package. Yeah, it's all not nice and well, but at the end of the day, history has shown what these Gentiles have done. Verse 31. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive, and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. So I believe that's that Wailing Wall, where they over there praying to that thing, thinking that this is Jerusalem. This is what the heathen built. That's not even our wall. Our wall was destroyed. Verse 34. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, an evil adversary to Yasharal. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary, and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made a habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. So the sanctuary is defiled, the land is being defiled, they're putting heathens in, putting wicked people, they're building military strongholds against the sanctuary to catch people and to trick them, to force them into doing things. So the temple was just destroyed. It was just in a horrible state. Verse 39. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Shabbats into reproach, her honor into contempt. We're 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 40. As been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. So again, the heathen love to try to make everybody be them. Everybody got to be one people, their people. So to be their people, you got to have their religion and their ways. No different than now. Verse 42, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. So everybody else got to leave their laws and basically worship this king now as their God. Verse 43. Yea, men drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for secure. Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Yehuda on every side. So now the temple is officially defiled, because now they're putting statues of people, of Greeks and heathen rulers inside the holy temple. Verse 55, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. And whosoever was found with any, the book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was, they should be put to death. Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the city. Now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of YAH. So now at the time of dedication, of the Feast of Dedication, they are now doing a pagan dedication, a pagan offering. No different than what's going on right now. Now that we're getting closer into the season of dedication of Hanukkah, which kind of dips close into Christmas time, they're doing the same thing. They're combining holy days and enforcing it in our culture. Verse 60. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that circumcised them. Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore, they rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was great wrath upon Yasharal. So this is what was going on in Israel. The heathen came in, and we have a date. This is the time of Alexander, the so-called great, Alexander of Macedonia. So we can look this up in history, Wikipedia, Encyclopedia Britannica, whatever, Google, and you can find a date. And you can see at that date, we were still in our land, and the heathen came in and discomfited us and forced their culture on us and forced us to eat these unclean meats, because they understood, probably by those unclean spirits, that if we defiled ourselves, we would have no power against them and they would take over. So this is the setting of how Hanukkah was coming around and how we had to fight to gain control back of that temple, which leads us into the dedication of the temple. So we're going to go to 1 Maccabees chapter 4. So let's go over to chapter 4, and we're going to start this at verse 28. 1 Maccabees chapter 4, and we're going to start this at 28, and now we're going to get into the actual Hanukkah. which is dedication. First Maccabees chapter 4, and we're going to start this at verse 28. And before we get into that, again, Hanukkah, the Hebrew word Hanukkah, the Strong's number is H2598, Hanukkah, Chanukkah, and that's from H2596, initiation, that is consecration or dedication or dedicating. And that happens in the month of Caslu, which is a pagan word. That's the 9th month. All right, so we're at 1 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 28. The next year, there following Lysias gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot. Bear with me 1 second. I think I went to the wrong thing. This should be 2 Maccabees. Bear with me 1 second, brothers and sisters. I think I wrote the wrong script. All right, so 1 Maccabees chapter 4. Okay, let's start this at verse 36. So this is after they went to battle and they prayed that the heathen would be discomfited. So we're going to start this at verse 36. 1 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 36. Then said Yahudis unto his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. So this is where a dedication comes from. A cleansing. Hanukkah. The word dedication is Hanukkah. Verse 37. Upon this all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up to Mount Sion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profaned and the gates burned up and the shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried towards heaven. Then Yahudis appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortresses until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless behavior, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it where they pulled it down. The heathen was in there sacrificing swine and pork and all kind of things just to defile the temple. Verse 46, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place until there should come a prophet to show them what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former. So again, they're even going as far as to build the altar according to law. Law said you cannot use a hewn stone. It has to be natural stones. So they're going out of their way to put things back according to the law. They're not saying, well, it really doesn't matter. No, Yah said, this is the instructions. This is what we have to go back to. So as we're dedicating our temple, which is us, who we are, we need to do the same thing. We got to put things back inside of us and organize us the way Yah ordained it, according to the law. Verse 48, and made this up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and incense and the table. And upon the altar they burnt incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlesticks they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up early in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. So they knew, they were attentive and knew that this was happening on a dedication, the time of dedication, or the time that there was another historic event which we're going to get into happen. Verse 55. Then all the people fell on their faces, worshiping and praising the Elohim of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors over them. So this is where they did the dedication. The dedication was done on the 25th day of the 9th month. So the Feast of Dedication is going to be the 25th day of the 9th month for 8 days straight. So this is going to take you into wintertime, into the 10th month. So if you're having this and you're finishing your dedication before winter starts, your calendar is off. Verse 58. Thus there was very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Yehudis and his brethren with the whole congregation of Yasharal ordained the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the 9th month, with mirth and gladness. So it is 8-day celebration from the 25th day of the 9th month. And this is a national holiday. It's not a holy day, because this is not Leviticus 23. This is not YAH's Moedim, but this is our national holiday. This is significant to us. This belongs to our culture and our heritage. Verse 60. At that time also they builded up the Mount Sinai with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it, and fortified Bethsura to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Edomites, Idumea. All right, praise Yah. So you see here, this is where Hanukkah was instituted. Hanukkah was instituted from this event here. Now, why was it on the 25th day of the 9th month? Why did they pick that day? Well, we're going to go into 2 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees chapter 2, and we're going to see where they got this date from. Why does it just happen to be the 25th day of the 9th month? And why did they know that that was a significant day? All right, so we'll go to 2 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees chapter 2, and we're going to start that at verse 17. Second Maccabees chapter 2, and we're going to start this at verse 17. We hope also that Yah, that delivered all his people and gave them all the heritage and the kingdom and the priesthood and the sanctuary, as he promised in the law, will shortly have mercy upon us, and gather us together out of every land under heaven into the holy place. For he has delivered us out of great troubles, and hath purified the place. Now as concerning Yahudas Maccabeus and his brethren, and the purification of the great temple, and the dedication of the altar, and the wars against Antiochus Epiphanes and Eupator his son, and the manifest signs that came from heaven unto those that behaved themselves manfully to honor for Yehuda, so that being but a few, they overcame the whole country and chased barbarous multitudes, and recovered again the temple, renowned all the world over, and freed the city, and upheld the laws which are going down, Yahweh being gracious unto them with all favor. All these things, I say, being declared by Jason of Cyrene in 5 books, we will essay to abridge in 1 volume. For considering the infinite number and difficulty which they find that desire to look into the narrations of the story for the variety of the matter, we have been careful that they will read many, that they that will read may have delight, and that they are desirous to commit to memory might have ease, and that all into whose hands it comes might have profit. Verse 26, therefore to us that have taken upon us this painful labor of abridging, it was not. Verse 22, when this was done, and the time came that the sun shone, which afore was hid in the cloud, there was a great fire kindled, so that every man marveled. And the priest made a prayer while the sacrifice was consuming. I say, both the priest and all the rest, Yehonathan beginning, and the rest answering thereunto, as Nehemiah did. And the prayer was after this manner: O Yahweh, Yahweh Elohim, creator of all things, who are fearful and strong and righteous and merciful, and the only and gracious King, the only giver of all things, the only just, almighty, and everlasting, you that delivered Yasharal from all trouble, and did choose the fathers and sanctify them. Receive the sacrifice for your whole people, Yasharal, and preserve your own portion and sanctify it. Gather those together that are scattered from us, deliver them that serve among the heathen, look upon them that are despised and abhorred, and let the heathen know that you are our Elohim. Punish them that oppress us, and with pride do us wrong. Plant your people again in your holy place, as Moshe has spoken. And the priests sung psalms of thanksgiving. Now when the sacrifice was consumed, Nehemiah commanded the water that was left to be poured out on the great stones. When this was done, there was kindled a flame, but it was consumed by the light that shined from the altar. So when this matter was known, it was told the king of Persia that in the place where the priests that were led away had hid the fire, there appeared water, and that Nehemiah had purified the sacrifices therewith. Then the king, enclosing the palace, made it holy after he had tried the matter. And the king took many gifts and bestowed thereof on those whom he would gratify. And Nehemiah called this thing Naphthar, which is as much as to say a cleansing, but many call it Nephi or Nephi. So this cleansing of the altar, this cleansing of the sacrifices was coming out of the miracle that happened on the 25th day of the 9th month, where Yah allowed fire to come down. Yah allowed the water not to make the wood unusable, so that they could go through their dedication and purification of the temple. So that's the history of that. So this was the original Hanukkah of what we're talking about here, about the dedication and the defiling by the heathen of the temple, and how they fought back to get control of the temple, and how they rededicated and cleansed it. So that happened to the physical temple. Well, though that temple was destroyed. That temple was destroyed. So now the temple is us. We are the temple. So how are we rededicating? Are we fighting back to take control of our temple again, which is our bodies? Are we allowing the swine and the unclean food to be sacrificed in our body? Or are we purifying, getting rid of anything in our body that was unclean and rededicating that temple? So let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And let's look at Yah's new temple, his current temple. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. First Corinthians chapter 3, and we're going to start that at verse 7. First Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 7. So that neither is he that plants anything, neither he that waters, but Yah that gives the increase. Now he that plants and he that waters are one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with Elohim. You are Yah's husbandry. You are Yah's building. So again, if you are a laborer together with Yah, with Mashiach, then we are his husbandry. We are Yah's building. So we're the temple. So this temple, Israelites, has been defiled through slavery, through captivity, through misinformation, disinformation, from being threatened with life, through inquisitions, through being separate from our families, all these different ways. But the Maccabees fought back. Many other Israelites fought back to retain their culture. So what are we doing once we've realized that we have been defiled to retain our culture, to cleanse that temple? Verse 10, according to the grace of Yah, which is given unto me, a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another builds thereon. But let every man take heed how he builds thereon. For other foundation can no man lay that is laid, which is Yahushua Mashiach. Now, if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, or wood, hay, or stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest. For the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. So this is our temple, and we're using this temple to do our works, to build on Mashiach's foundation. He's the chief cornerstone. So as we do these works, whether it be real or fake, or whether it be precious or flimsy, fire is going to reveal it. So fire is those things that happen in our lives that show us what we're really made of, what we really believe, what we're really going to do, how far we really come, and how far we really have to go. Verse 14, if any man's work abide which he hath built thereon, he shall receive a reward. So this is work that's being built on Mashiach's foundation. That means according to this word. Verse 15, if any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss. So if your works is burned up, you're going to suffer a loss. And that sounds real bad. We don't want to take a loss. We don't want to take no losses. But I'd rather take a loss and live. Because it says right here, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. So that same fire that he's going through, which is revealing his works, is the same thing that's going to save him, because he's going to realize, I don't have a leg to stand on. I need to get some work done. I need to do something right. 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 16. Know you not that you are the temple of Yah, and that the Spirit of Yah dwells in you? If any man defile the temple of Yah, him shall Yah destroy. For the temple of Yah is holy, which temple you are. So the temple of Yah is holy. So he said, I am holy, you be holy. So if we are his people, his chosen people, we have to be holy, which is Kodesh. Verse 18, let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seem to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Yah. For it is written, he takes the wise in their own craftiness. And again, Yah knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. Therefore, let no man glory in men, for all things are yours. Whether Saul or Apollos or Kepha or the world or life or death or things present or things to come, all are yours. And you are Mashiach's, and Mashiach is Yah's. So again, we are married unto Yah, and we are going to be married unto the bride. So husband and wife own everything. Everything in that kingdom is owned by that husband and wife. So it belongs to us. All right, so let's go to the conclusion. We're going to go to the book of Hosea. Hosea chapter 14. And we're going to look at how we can return to Yah, how we can rededicate, how we can cleanse that temple and return unto Yah. So we're going to the book of Hosea. Hosea chapter 14. Hosea chapter 14, and we're going to start this at verse 1. And shalom, shalom, Brother Andrew, good to see you, family. And shalom, as always, to my big brother Yafi Yehuda. Hosea chapter 14 and verse 1. O Yasharal, return unto Yahweh your Elohim, for you has fallen by your iniquity. Your own sins have caused you to fall. Verse 2. Take with you words and turn to Yahweh. Say unto him, take away all iniquity and receive us graciously. So will we render the calves of our lips. Asher shall not save us. We will not ride upon horses. Neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, you are our mighty ones, for in you the fatherless finds mercy. I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely, for my anger is turned away from him. I will be as the dew unto Yasharal. He shall grow as the lily and cast forth his roots as Lebanon. His branches shall spread, and his beauty shall be as the olive tree, and his smell as Lebanon. They that dwell under his shadow shall return. They shall revive as the corn and grow as the vine. The scent thereof shall be as the wine of Lebanon. Ephraim shall say, what have I to do any more with idols? I have heard him and observed him. I am like a green fir tree. From me is your fruit found. Who is wise? And he shall understand these things. Prudent, and he shall know them. For the ways of Yahweh are right, and the just shall walk in them, but the transgressors shall fall therein. So again, this is establishing how we can cleanse that temple. We cleanse this temple by returning unto Yah. And in returning unto Yah, we are rededicating this temple that was been so long given out to heathen, given out to pagan, given out to evil and unclean spirits. Well, now that we know who we are, now that we know where we're going and who we serve, we know what we have to do. We have to return back unto our heritage and our culture, denounce all this pagan stuff, all the things that we can freely denounce now. These are the things our ancestors had to denounce at the cost of their lives. So how are we going to sit there and think that we're going to walk into a kingdom and sit next to a brother that was willing to die for something that we denied because it wasn't convenient to us? So again, that's all we're going to do today. Our feast of dedication will begin the night of December 7th. The night of December 7th. So that's when our Hanukkah will begin our Feast of Dedication. So that's all we're going to do today. We don't have any questions. All right, so we'll go ahead and close out. And if you have gained anything from this Bible study and the Spirit moves you, you can go ahead and reach out to our website at saviorwordofyah.org and go ahead and hit the donate button, and you can donate securely and you can support the Savior Word of Yah movement. So that's all we're going to do today. And we'll go ahead and see you, Yah's will, this Shabbat. Shalom.